Ladies and gentlemen, the Live a Meaningful Story podcast. Featuring Jason Lynn, The Living Phone Book. Cameos and crossovers with Joseph Wilson. Nicholas Natal, our filmmaking connoisseur. And finally, Mr. Context himself, Derrick Hatch. I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everyone knows things are bad. The economy is bad. People are scared of getting deported. $5 buys a single dollar's worth. Young and old are getting defrauded. Fears of pandemics and rampant drug epidemics never cease. And there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do. And there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. And we sit watching CNN or Fox News while some corrupt journalist tells us that today we had a dozen mass shootings and 75 other violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We all know things are bad. Worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in our overpriced rentals, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone. Let us have my iPhone and my laptop and my YouTube, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the government and the inflation and the wars in the Middle East and the crime in the streets. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being, damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to pause this podcast. I want you to move towards an open space or roll down the car window, stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore.
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
Let's talk about network.
I think that's our best one. I'm not gonna lie. That was good.
Mr. Wilson, I heard you say you're mad as hell.
Oh, man.
I hope you get that question.
Well,
Right?
I hope.
well, guys,
What are you mad as hell about?
to think that this movie almost... Oh, my gosh, I got a text
From one of your kids?
from someone out there, like, what on earth is happening?
You see?
Did she hear us? We're mad as hell, and we're not gonna take this anymore.
Tell her she has to yell it now.
Yeah. You gonna say you're
So,
you wanna
have
come
you
in here
ever
and say
seen-
you're mad as
I am mad as hell.
Are you gonna
and
take it anymore?
I'm not gonna take this anymore.
that part? That part.
Perfect.
Yeah, that part.
Mic drop. I like stood. I was like over by the closet. I'm like he's like raging out. It's
Probably never heard me get like
no.
that before.
I was like, who do you think?
Yeah, I love that. That's her first interaction with this.
Yeah, by the way.
This is the best day ever.
That's
Just
funny.
how things are.
Oh,
That could not be any more amazing to have. Wow. So, guys, to think this film almost did not make it on the podcast. I was debating for a long time if I wanted to do this one.
What was the other one you were wrestling with?
Oh, I have a whole list.
Oh.
But this is a God thing. Like, to bring it down a little bit from that intro,
Mhm.
this is kind of a God thing of how this episode came about. Because
Go ahead, Metro Man.
So I saw the Mad as Hell clip as early as high school. I saw it in a documentary. I always thought, man, I want to see whatever movie that scene's in.
Mhm.
But I never watched it until last year. And I was kind of blown away watching it. I was like, and I'll get into why in a moment. But then Nick was over at my house a while back. And it was one of those days where you guys had to work on a Monday at UII. And Nick and I were off. And I was like, all right, just come over. So I came over and I was like giving him a bunch of ideas of things we could watch. And then Nick's like, let's do Network. And at this point, it wasn't even on my radar to do on the podcast. So we watched it. I mean, Nick, what were your first impressions when you saw it when we watched it that day?
I loved it. I thought it was masterpiece level kind of filmmaking and story. It's a huge story.
Yeah, it's
but
big.
It's like, I feel like it's just perfect though.
Yeah. So then about a week after we watched it, I had someone who I've known for quite a while who runs like an arts company, and they're trying to really establish like a theater division because they do like performances, dance, and different things like that. And so they wanted to, they want to bring this theater division on, and they know about the play that I wrote for your students, Joe, right? For the Christmas play.
Which is
And
really
so-
dope, everybody.
Yeah,
It was
thank
really,
you.
really dope.
Back
Yeah.
back to Bethlehem.
That's right.
Time traveling Christmas.
Back to Bethlehem.
Woo-hoo.
Woo, woo.
So we had a conversation, and she's like, so how would you feel about being a part of this? Could you write like a play, like write a whole production? And I'm like, yeah, I've done it. I've done it before, but never to the extent of, where this is going to be like, there's going to be dance choreographers, singing coaches, and sets being built.
Yes.
And so I've always wanted to write plays. I actually did write plays in elementary school.
Mhm.
I wanted to be a writer in general. I wanted to be a storyteller in that way. And so the thing is I wrote a play and I submitted it in 3rd grade to this company that was like, they were like accepting admissions for plays like from the school, right? So all these people in my elementary school, they wrote plays and stories and whatnot, and they chose the top 5 to get turned into actual plays. Mine did not get it, and my soul was crushed. Fast forward to high school, and I brought some props here on the table. I was really excelling in writing, so I brought this plaque here because I got the student of the year in English, like in my high school. This was like a high school of like 3,200 people. And then I was writing, like articles like for the school paper and things like that. And then I've got like this massive project that I did for like my senior year. I got a scholarship for writing, right? So I had this writing career that was really starting to blossom. And it was dealing with the combating of that kind of rejection that I had felt from elementary school for my writing, right?
Yeah.
And then I didn't go in that direction because ministry kind of took over my life. And I kind of put writing and all those dreams and ambitions on hold in favor because I wanted to see where God was leading me, right? And in the last couple years, as I started All Things Narrative, the writing has come back in my life. So last April, I got asked to be in a book, and that book is actually coming out this month, the month that the podcast is released. So this will be my first time being like a published author where I'm telling my story in there.
That's cool.
And now I've got this play that I'm being, to write, to produce, to direct it for this December. I'm really excited because I feel like I'm coming back into this part of myself that I had buried for so long.
Yeah.
Now, what on earth does this have to do with network, right? Why this is a long way of getting to this. So when the film Network opens, it says at the beginning, Network by Paddy Chayefsky. Paddy Chayefsky is not the director of Network. It's a guy named Sidley Lumet, who we're going to talk about. But Paddy Chayefsky is the writer. Now, most of the time in a film, the writer is not seen as the creative auteur, right? As the one there. But Network is actually structured and written like a play. Paddy Chayefsky is a successful playwright. He's also a successful television writer. And so he writes this film. And when I watch this film with Nick, as all this stuff is happening, there's just a sense that I'm feeling really inspired to write because this movie, the writing in this film is so good that it inspires me to write, to want to grow in my craft again. And so all that to say, I chose this film not just because thematically it's rich, and we're going to talk about how this is really a story about being in search of something real, but this also is coming at a time in my life where I'm coming back to something that's been very real for me that I've lost for many, many years. Writing has always been the way that I've tried to search for myself, how to express my emotions, how to make sense of the world. And I put that away. I buried that for a long period of time. And now finally, and I think you guys have really inspired me in this podcast. You guys are in the book, by the way. I don't know if I told you that, but your name dropped in the book. Yes, your name dropped in there. But
I'm a character.
this is
But you are now a character, Nick.
but this is really a moment where I'm coming to terms like with what's a real part of me that I've buried for a long time. So
That's dope. That's really cool, man.
thanks.
I can relate to being inspired, and especially like with us and things like that. You guys have also really inspired me in my creative process and things like that too. So
Yeah.
I get that, dude. I'm excited for you, bro. It's
Thanks,
good
man.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys to see this play.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the play, I saw the play that you did with the kids, and I thought it was great.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Amazing play, man. Like my kids love it.
Your
You had
kids
you
did
had
so
you had
good.
good talent.
Yeah, you do.
And I mean, that's the thing is like, you have to have kids, you have to have people that want to do it, right?
Mhm.
Because that makes all the difference. When you're hungry for the stage, the performance will come. And that's what I really believe, is when you get great people involved, like the people in network, like your students, you get people that are all in, then the story comes to life itself. So,
Yeah.
and I'm just honored to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And by the way, Joe, Jason, what were your kind of initial thoughts on network?
So I was trying to figure out, where is this leading? Where is this going? I wasn't trying hard to get invested, but with all the hierarchies and
It's a lot.
the
Mhm.
You
letters,
gotta watch
It's a
this
lot.
multiple times.
the
Yeah.
lettered entities and all the stuff, and this person's over this and the seat, whatever. Like, I couldn't keep track of it all. And I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah, it's supposed to be overwhelming.
It's just like, who owns who decides what? I can't even shake a stick at all this. And
Shake
it
a
was
stick.
hard to get invested.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was the mad profit stuff, or
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember at what exact point I started to go,
Do you want to
Okay.
be a mad prophet denouncing the hypocrisy of our times?
I do want to be a mad prophet denouncing the hypocrisy of our time.
So subtly funny.
I think like it's slowly I started to go, okay. And what you said about dramatic satire,
Mm-hmm.
it's very foreign to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm very used to like
Like more comedic.
what's
Like
his
spoof.
name? Oscar Wilde, like satire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that's what I'm used to.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Well,
what a
we've
lot
even
of
done
people are
satire
more-
on the podcast. We've done They Live, we've done Don't Look Up, and we've done American Psycho, all of which are
Mhm.
more humorous
Yeah.
forms of satire.
Yeah.
This has humor in it, but the drama is
Is-
more of
yeah.
the forte.
Yeah, I think most people, and where we're going with it, and then as I understood that more, I liked it more.
Mhm.
And I think the key for unlocking it was the Communist Party,
Yeah.
Laura,
Mhm.
like arguing with them over money,
Yes.
getting her share.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Ahmed Khan was like,
Yeah.
you need to read this clause, you need to read that. Just popping a gun off in the meeting.
Mhm.
Just
And-
give her the effing money.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite scene and favorite character.
So that I was like, okay, I see it. It's like not holding your hand. You have to really be looking at this and listening. And as I started to do that more, I was like, okay, I see it.
Yeah.
And then when the guy was like, I'm a pretty good salesman. Let me try to sell you on this.
Yeah.
And
then
just started
Yeah.
flipping it. And he spoke to him just like that dude was operating, and
Mm-hmm.
really like got into him. And I was like, oh my goodness.
And then, do you understand what I'm saying? Like how
flip right back.
Yeah. Am I clear? Am I making myself
Yeah.
clear?
And he was shook and took him right down.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like this movie.
Yeah. It sneaks up.
Yeah, no, I did like it. I did really enjoy the movie.
How about you, Joe?
Yeah, I was kind of on a similar boat with Jason. Like it was more like I know I have to focus for this movie. So since
Yeah.
I'm focusing so much, I don't know if I'm enjoying it or just trying to study this thing.
Mhm, mhm.
And then it got to a certain point. I was like, oh, you're saying something to me now, movie. Let me go ahead and just really sit back and
Yeah.
listen. The ending is really, really great. Like that, I think that last half, like hour or so, is
Yeah.
really, really
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna do Letterbox real quick, and then we'll go through it.
Letterboxd.
Television will never be the same. When veteran anchorman Howard Beale is forced to retire his 25-year post because of his age, he announces to viewers that he will kill himself during his farewell broadcast. Network executives rethink their decision when his fanatical tirade results in a spike in ratings. It sounds like such a ridiculous premise when you read it out loud.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing is that you have these guys like Sidney Lumet, the director, and Patty Chayefsky, the writer. They come from television. This is where their career came from.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very controversial making this film because they were kind of seen as like, hey, you're biting the hand that fed you. Like, we're the ones who got you here. And now you're turning around and making this ridiculous satire about things that could never happen.
Mm-hmm.
And now we look at it and we're like, this is actually kind of came true. This is the mad prophet of 1976.
They was kind of cooking.
They were. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that. I was like, I think this movie might be Howard Beale in a little way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And even at the time stuff was happening, 2 years before this movie came out in Sarasota, there was an anchor that committed suicide on the air.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that actually did happen.
Wow.
You also had, for the first time around this time, a major corporation was in the process of purchasing ABC. So that already was starting. And Chayefsky saw that this is the death of television that we're going to witness here. So he would go to these TV studios because he had access, and he'd interview the executives. And the executives talked about how everything they put on television they thought was garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't actually believe in what they were doing. And he talked about how sad that was, how like you're in the business of curating stories for millions of people, and you don't even believe in these stories. You think it's garbage. On top of that, in 1976, you have the wake of Watergate, Vietnam, inflation, there was a depression, and people, they were starting to move away from escapist television.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted something that kind of gave voice to their outrage. That's what Diane's first monologue was, right? Like, let's put that on there. And so these guys knew they had something, but the subject matter they felt like was so dark, they wanted to figure out, okay, how is this going to come through? Like, this is a masterclass of balancing tone between the comedic and the dramatic, because this is ultimately not just making a statement about television, it's making a statement about society as a whole. So it's a serious message delivered in some kind of exaggerated ways, and that's what the best satire, I think, is.
Mm-hmm.
When the movie came out, it was nominated for 10 Oscars. It was the same year as Rocky, so it had to go toe-to-toe with Rocky.
Okay.
Oh, that's crazy.
But it did win 4. It won 4. It obviously won Best Screenplay. This is considered one of the best screenplays of all time. You ask any screenwriter, you're going to see it on that list. So you've got Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress, Best Supporting Actor. 5 of the actors in this movie were nominated for those categories.
Oh, wow.
And 3 of them won.
Oh, okay.
So I'll tell you the 5 that were nominated. So the guy who plays Howard Beale, the guy who plays Max Schumacher, Faye Dunaway, who plays Diane Christensen, Ned Beatty, you meddle with the forces of nature. Yep. So that guy and Max's wife.
Okay. Oh, so, she was great in that, just that short scene.
She won. It's the shortest scene in history, the least amount of screen time that ever won an Oscar.
And she deserved it. No, she deserved that.
So she won for that.
That's such a brag.
Yeah, that is.
Yep, it is. So she won for that.
Most efficient award win.
Faye Dunaway obviously won for Diane Christensen.
Mm-hmm.
And
of course,
the guy, Peter Finch, is the guy who plays Howard Beale.
Mm-hmm.
Those collapses that were happening in the movie, those were happening in his real life also.
Oh.
And he actually collapsed and died after the movie was made while they were going out to promote it.
No, he did not.
So he is the first person in history to win an Oscar post his death.
That's crazy.
Literally.
Because, because even with him, like, falling on the TV and things like that, the world is just, like, so accepting of that. They, applause, That's crazy.
Yeah. So one of the only movies ever to have 3 out of 4 of the best acting nominations to win.
That's cool.
So, and 5 actors nominated. So how cool is that?
Good work, everybody.
Yeah. I mean, it is. Everybody in this movie clearly is in it. They only filmed the movie in a month.
In a month?
That's it. It just took a month to film it.
That's pretty intense.
That is intense. It takes me months to make my stuff, and they filmed theirs in a month. That's wild.
So there's essentially 3 themes that this movie that we're going to talk about. So the first one here is, and this is what Patty Chayefsky says, like this is his kind of like interpretation of the movie. So I want to talk about his first, and then I want to talk about what's the big cultural impact this movie has. That's going to be the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one's going to be my personal interpretation. And I think all 3 of these, I think, are worth discussing.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is, he says, this is a film about how you preserve yourself in a world where life doesn't mean much anymore. So in the opening scene, Howard's life is defined, the opening narration, it's defined in terms of his ratings performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with these 2 men at the kind of twilight years of their career, Howard and Max, reminiscing on the good old days. And then Howard realizing that because he's going to get fired, he's got nothing left to live for. He's got no sense of purpose, no meaning, and so he decides that he's going to kill himself on the air. And that's what you're going to see, is that this is a movie where everyone is acting out of emotion. Nobody's acting rationally.
Yeah.
And I think this is what happens when you find yourself in a world where things don't mean much anymore. The news doesn't mean much. Marriage doesn't mean much. Life itself doesn't mean much. So you're finding all these things are starting to become trivialized, just like in RoboCop, where people are just kind of like accepting things. Like, isn't that amazing? The scene where Howard Beale is first announcing it, and everybody in the control room is just like, "All right,
yep,
cute."
And they're like,
"Camera 3."
Did you just hear what he just said?
And there's like a callousness there.
Yeah.
And then you've got Frank Hackett, which amazing corporate stooge name. So that's Robert Duvall's character. So we talked about him in Secondhand Lions, in the Godfather films.
He's up there. He's up there with Brad Pitt.
Oh yeah. He's made an appearance a few times. So when he calls that press conference and he says that the net news division is now going to be given over as accountable to network, and that's the name of the film, right? Because the news is being taken over here by corporate interests, and so the news is no longer an independent agency. And this is obviously the trajectory that we see now, because when you get to the news now, forget it.
Yeah.
Everything is corporatized and all that stuff. So any initial thoughts on that there?
Just the callousness of, "Hey man, are you all right?" Which was not asked. It was, "Dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You can't do that."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just immediate, like, reprimanding.
Mm-hmm.
There was, Max, like, it was like, I think it was after that, he said he's going to come home with me or he's going to stay with me or something like that, but he took him in. So Frank is the only one, his friend, that's like, okay, there's something here, but he's still kind of halfway in the camp of, "Dude, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah, Max and Howard's friendship is interesting. Their dynamic. On one end, they're like best buddies talking about old times, but on the other hand, Max has to confront him sometimes.
And I think, like, there wasn't a lot of interactions with them after the first, like, scene of them interacting, right? Because I feel
There's some, yeah.
Because I feel like the friend is spending more of his time with the lady and trying to pursue that relationship
Right.
than actually caring about his friend and what he's going through.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And speaking of the lady, that's Diane. So her name is Diana Christensen. And so the first scene with her is that it's screening a real life robbery from the terrorist group, the Ecumenical Liberation Army. And she's like, "Let's put it on TV." So this is like long before the Truman Show predicted reality TV, like this 20 years beat it to it, right? The fun fact.
That's crazy that there wasn't reality TV then.
No. This is
You said predicted reality TV, and I kind of had to,
Yeah.
That's wild.
Jim Carrey actually cites Network as an inspiration for Truman Show. So fun fact there.
Yeah.
But it says in the film that she represents a generation raised by television, desensitized to the world around her. So she's that numb and callousness. She's the face of that. And what's interesting also is that Diana is giving these marginalized kind of radical groups the spotlight, and she's using them, those who are on the fringe, those who are marginalized, she's using them to promote. Exactly.
She don't care at all. She wants the ratings.
And I'm like, this is like the diversity. This is like DEI today, let's just put it out there and make it look like we're on all these sides.
But it's just to boost us up and elevate us into a certain position that we can benefit from.
Yeah. So it's no wonder that Howard in his first monologue, like his first actual monologue in the movie, and this is going to be an explicit podcast. It just is to quote this stuff. But Howard's first monologue is, I just ran out of bullshit. And I I love when Max is on the phone and he's like, what? Yeah, he's saying life is bullshit. And it is. So what are you screaming about?
Leave him on.
Leave him on. Yeah, because Max is angry too, right? Yeah. Because his network is getting taken from him. And so he's like, yeah, let's just let Howard
let him do what he wants to do.
Let him do it.
I don't care.
Yeah. He's fighting to maintain that independent voice amid corporate takeover. But then, though, this is when I didn't know what Nick was thinking of the movie when we were first starting it. And then we watched this scene. And then we get done with this scene that we're going to talk about. And Nick's like, wait a minute. Can we go back and rewatch that whole scene? And these are long scenes. These are like 5 to 10 minute scenes. And so we rewatched this whole scene. So can you tell us a little bit about the scene, Nick, where Diana and Max in the office?
Yeah, no, it was a really cool directed scene. So Derrick was watching it for the writing and I was watching the directing because there's a lot of blocking with the actors. So Diana and Max are in the office, and the conversation is like this dance between them. So she's standing half lit by the door, and then she moves underneath this lamp, and this lamp becomes really huge, and she becomes really small. And I was thinking of Citizen Kane because they play with that proportional stuff. But then she moves back behind the door, and then they're dancing with each other, and they're presenting their bodies in certain ways that when they're speaking and they're afraid, they're small, or they're hiding and she's trying to be small, but she ends up much larger than him on the desk, and she actually ends up winning. And then it's hard. I can't remember the scene fully, but at the end, then they come real close. It's like an ellipsis because she starts at the door and then she goes to this whole dance and she ends at the door. But she had a motivation to. What was her motivation? Just to...
I think this is what you're saying there. I think this is what sets like Sidney Lumet, like as a director, is the way that he rehearses scenes. He rehearses it like a play, and his goal, he doesn't always get it, but his goal is to get it in one take. So there's a lot of rehearsal before it gets there because the reason why he wants the actors to feel so comfortable that they can improvise where needed in the scene. And there is some improvising that Diane is doing, like when she walks to one corner and the way she's standing, right? But if you read the screenplay, it's also, I sent you the page from the screenplay of this. It's also brilliant because even like the way Diane is sitting with her shirt slightly down, like, I don't know if you caught that, where it's kind of like you can see down, like all these little details are so well
thought. It's a cat and mouse scene.
It is. There's so much.
Go back and
her the way
that.
She's in and out of light, so she starts half lit. Like she's hiding something, and then she's fully in the light, and then she backs out of the light, and everything is like really well.
Like
it's a dance.
It's very cool.
This is stuff that I normally don't like. I
see
can't
at the first
see into because it's just not part of my world that I'm familiar with. Like Nick is. And so hearing that makes me, I want to go see that.
I love when you see stuff like that because it's just like, oh shoot, like it's more. It helps with the storytelling more in the movie as well.
Well, and Diana's explaining in that scene that there's a psychic who prophesied that she's going to have an affair with a middle-aged man. That's how the scene opens, is her talking about that. Diana's life is dictated by a script, whether it's the script she writes or the script that somebody else is writing for her. So in this case, this psychic, right? So she wants to play out that script because that's her religion. So Max insists that this gutter depravity of, putting a populist voice like Howard Beale on the air to be the angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisy, all that stuff. He's like, it's got to come to an end. But Diana is saying that the network is already depraved. And Max proves Diana true because Max is trying to hold on to the last shred of integrity he has of the news in that scene. On. But the news represents him. So
the news represents her.
Yeah.
Well, it represents both of them.
Yeah, so she's looking at it from depraved because she's depraved.
And Max is representing the honest shred of journalism that's left. And this is the second theme we're getting into. Here's the corruption of media amidst society's moral decay. The reason why the scene and all that is so good is that Diane is corrupting Max in the scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why the shadows, and that's why she's got the blouse open in front of him.
And the,
So
and the honesty is eroding.
Mhm.
Yes, and Max is slowly being corrupt, and you're watching the corruption. It's a dance, right? And then there's the scene when they're eye to eye on equal playing field, and Max says, I get a feeling I'm being made. And she says, you are. I don't do anything on the first date.
Mhm.
We'll see. And then she calls and cancels, and they go out, and that's the corruption, right?
Yeah.
So by the end, they're both equally corrupt. And that's how the scene ends, with them both halfway in the shadow, halfway out on the same playing field.
That's so dope.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that's what Diana's doing to Max, is what she's ultimately doing to his network. And so Max, being this very traditional, hardworking guy, he's married. Diana's going to destroy his marriage. And she's just kind of like callous about it. There's that conversation at the dinner table where they're out eating at the restaurant, and she talks about how all I seem to be good at in life is my work.
Yeah.
And so this puts her and Howard on the same level,
Mhm.
because both her and Howard get their identity from their work. Max does not. I argue Max is going to get his identity from somewhere else. But Howard and Diane are one and the same. They both can't live without their work. When she says, all I want out of life is a 30 share and a 20 rating, it's just sad.
It is sad. Because her whole life and identity is revolved around it. Even the guy that she's having the affair with is like, yeah, she's one of the television generation. Or the news generation. She was brought up in this.
Yeah, Looney Tunes.
Yeah, Looney Tunes. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the quote that he says about her later, can I say it?
What is it?
Yeah.
You are television
yeah.
incarnate.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, that's huge. That line is huge there. And just in case for the audience, and in case you guys don't know, so like when they say like share and rating, so a rating point is the percentage of total number television sets in the country. So a 20 rating is 20% of all televisions are watching at the same time. A share point is the percentage of televisions in use at the same time. So 30% of televisions that are turned on are tuned into that. So that's what she wants. So she basically just wants a lot of eyes on what she's creating, right?
Yeah.
And then there's that line where he says, what sort of script can we make from this? And it's hard because Diana is in a way a creative, like a creative archetype. And like me, she views life as a story. She very much has that lens of a writer there. But this is where it be like kind of like with Cinema Paradiso, because these are definitely companions here. This is where the art, the creating, can become toxic and destroy your humanity here. And Max, I would argue, is the only one not under this grip of television, because ultimately what I believe Max is searching for is something real. He wants an authentic human connection with somebody, because he doesn't have it with his wife, or at least he doesn't believe he has it anymore with his wife.
Because even at the end, he was like, this does become a happy ending.
You're right.
The man that was cheating gets to go home to his wife and realizes what the things that he's lost and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. He doesn't have it with his television network. He wants to have it with Diana because it feels real to him.
And the television. If she represents a television nerd, he wants it with her and the television.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
He wants the earnestness.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he can't have that connection. I think, okay, I've said before that I think Blade Runner 2049 has maybe like the best sex scene ever. This might also have the best sex scene ever. So there's that scene where they're in the getaway, and
it's so all she is doing is talking about work. This scene irritated me.
The human connection doesn't arouse her.
Yeah, at all. There's no type of connection besides the little bit physical that they had, and then it was just and then immediately just laying down to go back to talking about work.
Yeah, which she said.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well,
But she's like, but as they're talking about her work, she's right? She's like kind of like getting aroused.
She's building up to it.
She's building, like it's literally sex through words.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's so freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
Like how they write it. And then by the time they get there, they're naked, they're exposed. And this is what Max wants. He wants that authentic, intimate connection. And literally, she takes the top. She takes the position of power sexually, right? On top of him. And then she chooses when it's over. It's so freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
It is such a brilliant
She's
way of
directing the whole
character.
thing.
She is
Directing the
she's
whole
directing
thing.
a scene. Exactly. She's writing a script, and Max is become passive and just is along for the ride, and he felt nothing.
At all.
There's no arousal, no nothing.
Because the network is screwing him.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
network is fucking him over. That's what's
It is
so
screwing him, yeah.
good
Oh
about
my
this
God.
scene.
Yeah.
Every scene you see with him and Diana is a microcosm of what Frank Hackett and the network is doing to him.
This movie is getting better.
Oh my, dude, this movie is
It's been better. I'm realizing.
but it's layered like ogres.
It's like, as soon as it was over,
Like
I said,
onions.
well, that's a 5 out of 5 movie.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
Uh,
It's a monster of a movie.
And then right after that scene of that fake lack of intimacy is the scene with Max and his wife. And that's true, authentic intimacy. It hurts. It's not fun when you've been cheating on your spouse and your wife learns about it, but that's real. That's the tragic thing, is he actually is experiencing something real, and he has become like Diana, numb to it in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And the wife just is like, say something for God's sake.
Yeah.
And he's completely numb. He's become Diana. He's become corrupted. And that scene, like what you mentioned earlier, Joe, that scene where she's just emotional. Now, that's not a scene where they did it in one take. They did the opposite. So they did it so many times to try to get her to that level. And that's why Sidney was like, do it again, do it again, do it again.
wow.
And then the writer, Patty Chayefsky, who was like right there on the set with him through the whole movie making it, he's like, we might need to, like, we got it. I think we're good. And he's like, back off. I know divorce. He's actually, the director's been divorced several times in his life. He's like, we're not there yet. He's like, we're not at the peak of what this could be. And he just kept going and going until she was so broken and Max was so callous from being over the scene filming it. And then he's like, we got it. It's brilliant.
Because she starts off like quiet and listening, and then it's like, do you love her?
Yeah.
And then that's when she explodes, and it's just like, jeez.
It was raw.
And then
It was real.
and then comes back like, okay, so what are we gonna do about this now? Like I was like, dang, this.
She says, I'm not giving you up that easily.
Yeah.
I was like, ugh.
Because Max's soul is in the balance in this movie. Even though the movie, like Howard Beale is like the character that we associate with,
So if the
Max really kind of is, in a way, it's
so
the
that-
protect.
that- if you look at it like that, he's cheating on his wife with work.
Yes.
So it's just work-life balance that she's trying to grab.
And the authentic life, if she's going to represent that as well, the authentic life is fighting for him. Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Network.
Yeah. Network. But that leads to the final. We're moving through this quick. This leads to the final of the three themes, which is what I personally saw in the movie. So the last theme that I noticed is that this is a film about idolatry. Maybe the best film I've ever seen about idolatry. The idolatry that ensues from trying to find purpose in a society apart from God. This is the most truthful, godless movie I've ever seen. Because this movie is intentionally godless.
Yes.
But it is true.
Oh.
Yeah, that's good.
I remember.
So there's one commentator. I can't remember if it's the essay in the Arrow book that I have here or if it was somewhere else that I heard it. But one commentator said that these characters know they are in a story, a production of sorts, but they don't know who's really in charge. So they all try to take charge of the collective narrative.
And you can feel that within it as well. It does feel like just
nobody's
everybody
in charge.
Yeah.
Nobody's in charge. So in a world where God is out,
Ned's in
right?
charge.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, in a way.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that in a moment.
The
But
companies are in charge.
yeah, but God is out of the equation. Except for Howard Beale, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But for the most part, God is out of the equation, so everybody else has to fight for that godlike control of this script, of this narrative here. And the television, the tube, has become the author of their stories. It's become the god of their lives. And you see that with Howard hearing this voice when he wakes up one night, and we don't know what he's hearing at first, right? It's like a demonic burning bush moment. Why me? Because you're on
TV,
television,
yeah,
dummy. Yeah. the voice even said it's to him when he talks about it later on the broadcast that it's not eternal truth. And Max sees that there's something wrong with Howard. Like he's having some sort of mental breakdown.
Yeah.
But Howard says this is not a psychotic episode. This is a cleansing moment of clarity. And he calls it in that scene in the office, he calls it a spirit. So there's something going on here, right? He says he feels connected to all living things. He specifically mentions flowers, which is amazing because when they give him the Howard Beale show later, there's stained glass behind him. What's on the stained glass?
Oh, is it flowers?
It's flowers.
Okay.
So there's something religious, spiritual that's happening to Howard here, right?
Like, those type of windows are like at churches and things like that too. So it's always,
yes.
Yeah.
It's made to look like a cathedral, and he's the televangelist at the center.
Yeah.
He's the prophet. Then there's the moment where he's in the rain and he comes into the studio before he gives the mad as hell speech and he says, I must make my witness. So it's a lot of religious language that he's using, right? And again, this is a godless movie, but it is incredibly intentional of what's happening here. When he gets it, so he does his mad at hell speech, which we referenced earlier. That's the most famous speech of the movie, famous scene in the movie. If you look at like the poster for the movie, so that's actually this right here. This is the original poster. If you see the original poster, you'll see that there's a television tube and there's thunder coming down from heaven in a rainstorm coming down there, right?
Sick, yeah.
So in that scene, and this is something that is actually in the screenplay and something that they talk about, the scene with the mad as hell speech, when the thunder comes down, it's like the judgment of God is coming upon it. Because it's a strange kind of thing there, because now Howard Beale has taken the place of God. The television has taken the place of God in terms of people's authority and is literally creating disciples who are going out and yelling that they're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that was insane when I was starting to pick up on that. Like even the people in the network, in the news station, they want divinity. They want prophecy. They want
it's all spiritual things,
But like the minute it's got like, no, if I wanted fire and brimstone, I would have a
Billy
pastor
Graham.
come up there. I would have Billy Graham. And they're like, she's like, that's him? No, I don't want him. Like, we want the stuff of God, but we do not want God. There's no source. They just want the power.
And even if Howard Beale is hearing some sort of demonic voice with all this, the thing is he's not wrong.
He's not. Yeah.
And that's the scary part, right?
Yes.
He's bringing truth, but it's coming through this kind of corrupt lens of television and whatever this force is, which I think I know what the force is, and we'll get to it.
It's a half-truth.
When he gives that monologue, the second most famous monologue is the first one he gives as the Howard Beale show, where he talks about less than 3% of you read books. The only truth you know is what you get over the tube. And I mean, gosh dang, these monologues are just like, this is like...
They were cooking with
They're cooking, yeah. And so he mentions, let me give you some of these lines here. This tube is the gospel, the ultimate revelation. This tube can make or break presidents, popes, prime ministers. It's the most awesome, pardon my language, God, I hate saying this word, but like it's the most awesome goddamn force in the whole godless world. Again, every word here is so intentional of what's going on here. He talks about the companies taking control of this godless thing that's television, godless companies taking control of a godless enterprise. And he says television is not the truth. It's an amusement park. It's a circus, a carnival, traveling troupe of acrobats, dancers, storytellers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, football players, lion tamers. We're in the boredom killing business. So if you want the truth, go to God. Go to your gurus, go to yourselves, because that's the only place you're going to find any real truth. But man, you're never going to get any truth from us. We'll tell you anything you want to hear. We lie like hell. And then he's referencing stories like, we'll tell you this, we'll tell you this. No matter how much trouble the hero is in, don't worry, just look at your watch. At the end of the hour, he's going to win. We'll tell you any shit you want to hear. Dealing in illusions. But oh my gosh, it's just like it's weird because it comes off as like a sermon, right? And it's a really brilliant sermon, but it's not. But there's something about it, and he chides them for wanting to be like the tube, and he's calling out the madness. In God's name, you people are the real thing. This is why I feel so connected with this movie, because my movies are about the search for meaning in the human experience. And this is people who are hungry for that. And despite the fact that Howard is telling them, turn off the television sets, like, they can't look away.
Yeah.
They can only applaud, but they can't actually do anything. It's a circus, yeah. When you think about today, you know, we've got all these influencers on our phone that can speak to us. We've got people we look up to. And I mean, we do a podcast about film, for goodness sake. But here's the thing is, like, these people on these pedestals, they don't love you.
At all.
They don't.
At all.
The media, the government, celebrities, they all act like they're on your side.
Makes me think of Don't Look Up.
Yeah, yes, this is the perfect companion of Don't Look Up. Because at best, they're apathetic to your situation. And at worst, they despise your existence.
Or the I'm staying home for COVID thing, where all the super rich actors are like, I'm staying in. So you probably have 5 restaurants in your house. What are you talking about?
You probably never even left your house besides to go go do the movies, bro. Chill out.
Yeah, they don't care. They're like Diana in that scene where she's where they're the number one and everyone's applauding and going, we're number one, we're number one. I mean, it's like while Howard Beale is on the television set revealing the truth of what's really going on in terms of the corporate takeover, Diana, she doesn't care about truth. She just cares about being number one. I'm sorry, celebrities, government, media. Listen, 99% of you all out there just care about being number
y'all
one.
Suck,
you
bruh.
don't care about the people.
And y'all can come after me with that Iron Man 3 status. Come to my mansion, bro. Come to my place.
Willem Dafoe doesn't care about you.
Dang, that does
That
hurt.
one hurts, right?
Yeah,
But that's the problem,
Let's
Joe.
go there.
Denzel
Let's go
Washington
there.
doesn't care about
They don't know who you are.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you exist.
But that's the problem,
so I
Joe,
need to meet them.
is you just pushed the button right
will
there.
make you
You
care.
just challenged power. And just like Howard Beale, when he pushed too far
Yeah.
and Frank Hackett gets that call, Howard goes to meet Jensen, the guy who's at the very top of it all.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Jensen's like an Avengers level threat the way he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so literally he's the man upstairs because Howard is accompanied to him as he's raving. He's going upstairs. And there's something very godlike about Jensen and what's being done here.
Yeah, the long table, the way everything was set up in the room is like they're distant from each other, but it's still like hyper focused on.
It's mostly darkness. Literally, so he pulls a curtain and takes the last bit of light out of the room here. And this is probably a good time to talk about this as well. So Nick and I were talking about this is the moment of light is awesome because what Sidney Lumet said that he wanted to do is he wanted to corrupt the camera throughout the film. And so as each character becomes more corrupt, so does the camera, the lighting, and the cinematography. So here's what it means. So, and this is all in the essay in this here. So the cinematography is in 3 phases in this movie. There's naturalistic, realistic, and commercial. So in the opening scene in the movie when they're outside, that is 100% natural lighting. There is no artificial lighting or anything. It is a real, genuine moment between 2 human beings trying to grapple with a meaningless void that they feel, right? Everything is completely natural. When we get to the newsroom, they stage the lights realistically, but they use a combination of natural light from windows and artificial lights in all those scenes, right? So for the majority of the movie, there's this weird storytelling interplay between natural light and artificial light that's happening in the scenes like what we talked about with Diana and Max. In this scene, in the window with Jensen, when he closes the window, it is the last scene in the movie with any natural light.
Really?
It is the final moment where what is pure and honest and natural is shut in.
That's crazy.
And from the rest of the movie on camera, it is completely corrupted and it is all artificial lighting at that point, made to look like the lighting on the tables, and there's an interplay with the darkness and the light because he starts at the edge of the table, towering over him, right? Giving his amazing monologue here. You have meddled with the primal forces of nature, Mr. Beale, and I won't have it.
He went ham into that speech.
Crazy.
Yeah. I think that was the party movie, I was just shook. I was like, whoa.
It's the
I feel
voice
like
of
you're
the
talk-
system.
Yeah, I feel like you're talking to me, man.
Yeah.
The system
I
is...
hate the system.
Yeah, it's the voice of the system there, revealing like there are no nations, no people.
Yeah.
Talking about how it's all.
What do you think the Russians are doing over there? Do you
Uh-huh.
think they're doing the same thing we're doing over here.
There's no America, no democracy. There's only IBM, ITT, AT&T, DuPont, Dow, Exxon, right? These are the nations of the world today.
Mm-hmm.
That hurt hearing that. Feels like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The world is a business, Mr. Beale. It has been since man crawled out of the slime, and our children will live, Mr. Beale, to see that perfect world in which there's no war or famine, oppression or brutality, one vast ecumenical holding company for whom all men will work to serve a common profit, in which all men will hold a share of stock.
But that is also true. What will happen in the end times? There's going to be one world government.
Again, it's ungodly, right? But it's also truth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy. And the thing is that what Jensen is doing in that scene, so when Howard Beale gets done, his expression, so this is also a biblical expression here. Yeah, he says, I have seen the face of God. That's what Jacob says to Esau when Esau and him reconcile.
Yeah.
Because Jacob wronged him, right? So Esau forgives him. And that's when Jacob says, I've seen the face of God. Howard Beale, like Jacob, betrayed the network and went against by revealing it, right?
Yeah.
And now it's the same line as Jacob, but applied not to, the righteous, but to something wicked.
Yeah.
And then this is where the exchange of and I've chosen you to be the face. Why me? Because you're on television and you realize that the voice that spoke to Howard Beale in that burning bush moment is the same voice of Jensen that's directing him. It's literally the same dialogue exchange.
I don't think so.
What do you mean?
It's the same exchange.
No, he's manipulating him using that.
I think so. Yes.
No, I'm not saying it's the same voice. I'm saying Jensen is mimicking what he said on the air.
Yes. No, I agree. He's doing that.
Him.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not the same voice. It's like
it's the same spirit.
Yeah.
It is the same spirit.
Okay.
Undoubtedly. Because even as Jensen is in the shadows, he's in the shadows when he says the line, I've seen the face of God. Jensen's face partially gets revealed. And you know what he says to him? You just might have.
It's very godless.
Yeah.
Very godless.
Yes. That's the face of...
That is because he represents the God of this world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's kind of start to wrap this up. Let's start to get to near the end of the movie here. So Howard Beale starts talking about how democracy is coming to an end. He gets people to rally to do something, and he's like, but that's it. We're not going to do any real change. And he starts actually speaking the truth, and people start to turn off. They start to tune him out. And he talks about in that monologue about how people are starting to become like these humanoids, where they're creatures that look human but aren't. And this is like the weird thing. I was thinking about like social media, like when I was watching that scene, because I feel like in social media, it's a weird thing it does to us as a society and a people, because essentially everyone becomes an audience for our own script that we write. Mm-hmm. So we become Diane, we become Howard Beale, we become these people trying to get people to get the share and the ratings, right? We're all fighting and competing for that. We're trying to get that. And every action that we take, we're posting it. It's becoming, our life is becoming a performance of sorts.
We're our own networks.
Yeah. Well, and that's why like a lot of the stuff like you've been sending with Richard Rohr, I don't know if you were going to get into that on here, and just talking about how we create these systems, these institutions, these different things. I mean, you could explain it better than I do. And essentially like they ultimately exist to propagate themselves, and we become the product of it in a sense.
Yeah, well, I watched it this morning, and I actually almost cried watching it this morning because of what I've been through. But he says that there's 3 levels, and they go in this order. So it's the world or the system, then it's the flesh, and then it's the devil. And they go in that order.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that the first level is skipped, and it goes straight to the flesh. So whatever group you're in, there's an individual problem in the flesh that's causing the problem.
It's not the group.
It's
as a
not the
whole
group.
sinning.
There's sin in the camp, and
Mhm.
that's the reason there's a problem. So Howard Beale is speaking out, and he's the problem, but the group shadow is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
The
And-
darkness of the group.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The sin of the collective group
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
is the problem, and there's a collective group sin that is neglected.
Mhm.
It's always the individual in the group. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that doesn't hold with scripture either. Like, because there was whole groups that were held accountable.
Yeah.
It wasn't just always there's one in the game. It's
Mhm.
like this as a whole. You are responsible.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so
That's essentially what I got from the video, and I thought that was so fascinating.
Mhm.
It's straight to. He says, "Make the whole congregation feel sinful, and they'll come to the altar."
Mm.
And so, basically, what it creates is a learned helplessness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just almost started crying.
Well, and that's what's
Oh,
happening in network, though, right?
Mhm.
Is the television is creating a generation and a society that's dependent on it.
Yeah.
That's what social media, that's what the internet, that's what all these things are doing for us today.
I think of when TikTok was banned, like
Uh-huh.
everyone like almost went into a frenzy
Mhm.
about it, and it's like it was only gone for a day, guys. Chill out.
Yeah.
But that just shows how much of a grasp or a hold of a hook that these things have on these people.
Yeah. Well, we become dependent on it in a lot of ways. People become dependent for their income, right?
Mhm.
They'll become dependent
Yeah, it
for
keep-
their social
It
connection.
keeps you immature.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps you at a
That's
level.
good.
So
Yeah.
it
Good,
keeps
yeah.
you
You
at
said
this
that.
bottom level, and you're the one to blame,
Mhm.
and not this system that's producing it.
Yeah.
And because Howard Beale's trying to ascend above that and become something greater, the system solution is not to eliminate, at first, it's not to eliminate it, it's to incorporate it.
Mhm.
It's to make him like a part of the system. And that way, hopefully, the problem will go away if he's under us, if we can control him.
And then, so he goes through those stages, and then when it reaches the part of the devil, he says that when systems get to a point where they can't be critiqued, or there's no
There's-
room for critique,
there's room for the demonic to play.
then that is where the devil comes in. And where does the devil hide? The first instance of the devil hiding in Scripture
Is in the synagogue. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so Beale
Dang.
gets all the way to the top.
What's it called? The Garden. That's the original.
No,
In Mark chapter 1,
Oh.
in the beginning of the Gospels, it's not the first appearance of Satan because it's actually in the wilderness tempting Jesus. So it's interesting because Jesus gets acquainted with Satan in the wilderness, and then he recognizes Satan in the synagogue.
Mhm. So out in
Mm.
public. But anyway, so
I
Beale
looked that up, yeah.
goes to the top of the head of the corporation, and there's no room for any look at the group shadow.
Yeah.
There's no room for any of that.
He's getting squashed.
And then he goes, "Did I see the face of God?
Mm-hmm.
You may just have." And he ends up getting killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the ratings drop,
Mm-hmm.
but Jensen's agenda trumps the ratings.
Yeah.
Jensen doesn't care about that. Jensen cares about propaganda, about a message, right?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of sounds like today with Hollywood, cares more about a message.
They live.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you get to the point where his ratings drop and Frank Hackett and Diane and all of them are sitting in a room with that fully artificialized, sleek lighting,
Yeah.
saying, maybe we should kill him.
We just gotta kill him.
Yeah. But to get there, though,
And they did.
because, yeah, they do. But the last thing we have to talk about is Max and Diana, what happens with them. There's a scene where they get in a fight later on, and Max says, after living with you, Diana, I've become one of your scripts.
Mhm.
But there's some real, actual life going on here. This is when they're having that fight. You see, he talks about how he feels lousy, pained, he's guilty. He's the only one living authentically.
Yeah.
He's getting scared because all of a sudden it's closer than the end than it is
Yes,
to the beginning.
yeah.
Death is suddenly a perceptible thing to me with definable features. I live here, I'm real, and you can't switch to another station. He just wants to be loved with his primal doubts and all. And Diana just stares at him and says with the most blank stare and trembling voice,
Yeah.
I don't know how to
that.
do that. And answers the phone for work.
Mm-hmm.
Tragic.
I'm just gonna take that and I'll be right back. No, you're not.
Tragic. Now, my favorite scene in the movie is the final scene with Diana and Max.
Mhm.
This, I think, is my personal favorite scene. It may not be the best scene, but it's my personal favorite. So there's this moment where Max is getting ready to leave. He's finally getting ready to leave. And this is what I want to read the exchange because it's so good here. Because this is the key, like, to unlocking this movie. This is the grain of hope on the horizon that's given here in search of something real. It's too late, Diana. There's nothing left in you that I can live with. You're one of Howard's humanoids. If I stay with you, I'll be destroyed. Like Howard Beale was destroyed. Like Lauren Hobbs was destroyed. Like everything you and the institution of television touch is destroyed. Your television incarnate, Diana, indifferent to suffering, insensitive to joy, all of life is reduced to the common rubble of banality. War, murder, death are all the same to you as bottles of beer, and the daily business of life is a corrupt comedy. You even shatter the sensations of time and space into split seconds and instant replays. So as he's giving this, and there's more to the monologue that I'm not sharing, but as he's doing this, and Faye Dunaway talks about this, that it was very hard for her to play this character because there's no vulnerability that's really shown.
Yeah.
Until this moment. So there's a moment when he's saying, I'm leaving you, Diana, and he's starting to explain why. And she shares with that tremble in her voice, then don't leave me. Or he's like, I love you, Diana, but I can't.
Yeah.
And she's like, then don't leave me. That's the only moment of vulnerability that she has. You see, her conscience is pricked in that moment when she shares that because she sees Max reaching out to her and her facial expression, right, matches that. But then when Max starts to say, when everything you touch dies with you, like that whole monologue, and when he says, your madness, Diana, virulent madness, and everything you touch dies with you. When he says that, her face slowly morphs from that moment of vulnerability in her conscience to this blank, stubborn, holding back rage. And she's trying to just turn off all emotions in that moment. So here's the thing. He said that everything you touch dies. And then he says, but not me. Diana touches her conscience in that moment. She reaches out and touches it and kills it. And you see it on her face there. Exactly. Yeah. And that's the moment she's too far gone.
Dang.
She kills her conscience.
You know what's crazy? None of these people end up getting any sort of like consequence or anything like that due to all this. The movie ends with his death, and that's it.
That's it.
And them talking about it, and I'm sure that
that's the world.
Yeah,
that's the world.
And that's sad that is what this world is, and just the fact that we can probably assume that after the shooting, they even went higher in power because of all the viewings and ratings and stuff like that. So it's how do we fight something like this?
Does.
Yeah. Well, and that's what Max does is because he says, but not me. Not as long as I can feel pleasure and pain and love.
It starts with the individual.
And it's a happy ending. Wayward husband comes to his senses, returns to his wife, with whom he has established a long and sustaining love. Heartless young woman left alone in her Arctic desolation. My favorite use of words. Music
he really
up with a
said some
swell.
rough-
Yeah.
Final commercial. And here are a few scenes from next week's show. And he opens the door, leave
were
this
cooking.
story,
Yeah.
and go find a more meaningful story to live by.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Howard Beale gets shot. A human being's life is taken, and it's got the 4 televisions on the screen. And it's just another story in the middle of a Life cereal commercial. And like all the images are powerful, like what it's trying to show with like the editing there, right? Because it's getting slowly, it's on all 4 screens.
Yeah, but
and then it gets overtaken, right?
And what's
by
crazy is the commercial was drawing my attention more than the Howard Beale thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had to focus on him being dead because I was getting pulled away.
Yeah.
The corporate noise drowns it out.
Yeah.
It drowns it out to where it's
Sure
only
does.
left on one screen by the end, and all the others are just corporate noise.
Yeah.
And then it ends with that final narration that says, Howard Beale, a man who was killed for having too low of ratings.
First man killed.
Godless, horrible, amazing 5-star truth. It's crazy.
Would you call this nihilistic?
No. I would say it's
because of Max.
Max.
Yeah.
Max
He has-
grounds it keeps it from being nihilistic.
Yeah.
It's playing in that
Yeah.
world for sure, but it doesn't go there. There's enough seeds of hope in here to where I can't say it's nihilistic.
If he wasn't in this, or if he fell like short of it all,
The
I think it
setting
would
is
be.
nihilistic. The worldview is nihilistic, but
Mhm.
Max is the main character, and he's not
There's the
nihilistic.
meaning in it
Yeah.
to search for.
He's the
So-
one living a meaningful story.
Yeah.
We're trying to.
He's fighting to live a meaningful story.
Mhm.
I don't think he's there yet, but
True, yeah.
And if you want to live a meaningful story, you have to be in pursuit of what's real.
Mhm.
And he's the only one in this artificial world, in this idolatrous world, who's after something genuine. And he would rather go and face his wife, whom he's betrayed, and that broken marriage, because that's real.
Yeah.
He'd rather be there than to live a fake relationship with television incarnate.
Mhm.
It's brilliant. Any final thoughts?
This is great. This has, again, when we do this a lot, opens my eyes to a lot of the different things behind the scenes and just gives me a whole different new perspective on the
Mhm.
movie. And it's great.
Yeah.
F the system.
This one's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
This one might be the best movie we've ever done. Oh, there's Godfather. This one's amazing.
yeah, there's so much. And
Yeah.
yeah, there was no real news. I don't think ever
Oh, yeah. You pointed that out in the text group.
put.
And you
in
were like,
the-
what?
There's no news being shown.
Mhm.
I don't think ever.
The DVD says "Still Mad as Hell"
That's good.
when you open it up.
Still
Network.
mad as hell.
Warner Brothers still mad as hell.
That is great.
Yeah.
That Warner Brothers is still mad as hell.
Which is amazing because Warner Brothers did not make this movie.
Oh, they didn't?
Nope. They acquired it
From Disney?
from MGM. So it literally, the
Was
rights
bought.
to the movie were acquired by it.
Someone higher up. The irony of it
I
all.
wonder if they even saw that. If
No.
they realized what they were doing.
I don't give
Well,
them that much credit.
MGM rejected the movie at first. They didn't want it. And then Sidney Lumet is like, fine, I know I'll get it made somewhere. And then as he was shopping around, MGM was like, they begged him to come back. They were like, yep, they were. They were.
Please.
Because they knew this was going to be a good movie.
Mhm.
And the cast he had assembled, everything. And I can't believe, it's amazing though that Walter Cronkite's daughter is in the movie.
Everybody's
That's very
afraid of
meta
pissing
right
people
there.
off.
Is, yeah, let's put the most prominent news anchor's daughter in the movie as an ecumenical terrorist.
That's awesome.
It's so layered.
They are
I'm telling
cooking
you.
in it.
Inimical.
Yeah. So it's amazing, because Peter Chayefsky,
You broke
this is a movie where the writing really is the auteur. It really just inspires me as a writer, as a creator to create something this masterful, but also something, because I pick a lot of stuff that's more fantastical. This is something that's so grounded.
Mhm.
It's very much more realist, even though it is satire. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's no score.
Oh, no. I didn't notice that.
The only score that was composed is the news, like for the show.
Mm.
So there's actually no music that accompanies any of these scenes, which I think is what makes them stronger, is you have to sit in the silence of just the words alone.
Yeah.
And there's no music to pull your
There's
emotions.
no music in that life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's Network. And next time we're going to finish out this authenticity series with Nick's pick. And until then,
Still mad as hell. And I'm not going to take it anymore.
We're still mad as hell, and,
And
we're
we're
not
not
going
gonna
to take it anymore.
thank you for listening to the Live a Meaningful Story podcast, produced by All Things Narrative. If you'd like to learn more about our coaching, workshops, events, please check out allthingsnarrative.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at All Things Narrative. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and tune in next time as we continue exploring the stories we love and the stories we live. Take care.